When I dedicated my life to the people, I dedicated my life. You did?
If I asked you, quick, think of 5 names from the USA's anti-racism movement, I'm sure I would get a lot of Martin Luther King, some Malcolm X, and even the occasional Rosa Parks. I'm also sure most people wouldn't remember Fred Hampton. According to director Shaka King, there is a reason for that. King believes Fred Hampton's story is not so popular because it goes against everything that America represents. It would be a slippery slope, because if you told the true story of how the FBI assassinated a 21-year-old black radical, then you'd have to also explain all of the other instances where they did similar things within the nation and across the globe. It was with that thought in mind that King decided to turn the months before Hampton's assassination in December of 1969 into a movie. But instead of only focusing on Hampton and his achievements, the director chose to put the light on William O'Neill, the Judas to Hampton's Black Messiah.
You're looking at 18 months for the stolen car, or you can go home.
O'Neill was a black teenager involved in petty crimes and with little interest in activism, until he was caught stealing a car and forced by the FBI to infiltrate the Black Panthers movement. His orders were to gather information on Hampton and eventually take part in the actions that ended up in Hampton's assassination. The character in focus is evident from the very first scene of the movie, where you can see an older O'Neill talking with a documentary interviewer about his actions. It is also that interview that concludes the movie, now with real-life footage. This specific type of scene that happens independently from the main narrative are called bookends, and are usually used to give the audience more context for a story without necessarily interfering with the movie's plot. In this case, it also helps set the tone. Like they are saying, here, see this character the audience would normally ignore? Well, that's who you should be paying attention to. Like Hampton sadly didn't.
I don't believe I'm gonna die slipping on no ice. I don't believe I'm gonna die because I got a bad heart. I believe I'm gonna die doing what I was born for. I believe I'm gonna die half the people.
Because he wanted Hampton to be shown beyond his image as a freedom fighter, for his family and plans for the future to be also part of his story, King spent a year working with Fred Hampton's fiancée, who is in the movie played by Dominique Fishback, and his son, and that's how he got to know more about the Black Messiah. Hampton was an impressive activist in his young age. Again, he was only 21 at the time of his death. For example, he was responsible for the creation of the Panthers' survival programs, with the goal to provide access to fundamental elements of life. That being, health clinics, a free breakfast program that actually paved the way for welfare policies of today and even political education classes. Basically, he made sure his people were healthy, fed and educated before they could start talking about any activism.
So what we're talking about is there has to be an educational program. That's very important. As a matter of fact, it's so important for us that a person has to go through 6 weeks of our political education before he can consider himself a member of the party, able to even run down ideology for the party.
Daniel Kaluuya is impressive as Fred Hampton, playing well the activist's soft side in scenes with family, but also his impactful presence as the Black Messiah. On the other side of the spectrum, O'Neill is played by Lakeith Stanfield, who delivers a pretty damn perfect performance when it comes to show O'Neill's unstable emotions as a man put in a terrible situation with no easy way out. In fact, playing the character was an intense emotional challenge for Stanfield. For instance, a pivotal scene for O'Neill coincided with the 50th anniversary of Hampton's death, and Shaka King told in an interview that in that day Stanfield showed up in the set of Wreck. I just remember telling him that out of all of us, he was making the greatest sacrifice because Daniel's playing an icon. That's its own set of challenges. But Lakeith has the thankless job of playing this person who he's nothing like, who repulsed him, certainly at the beginning of the movie. It's important to notice that Stanfield is, and looks way older than O'Neill actually was during the events. The guy was barely 17 when recruited by the FBI and 20 in the year of Hampton's assassination. It isn't a huge change, but still it is one that could make the audience less empathetic towards his betrayal and general actions. Honestly, considering the result on screen, it's hard to say the choice was a mistake, but still. Kaluuya and Stanfield actually worked together before in Jordan Peele's Get Out, and the experience seemed to have done a lot of good, since the two actors work so well off each other and independently that it would be easy to say Judas and the Black Messiah has two protagonists. Funny enough, everyone was caught by surprise to see them both competing in the supporting actor category in 2021's Oscars instead. The movie also got a nod in 4 other categories: Best Original Screenplay, Best Cinematography, Best Original Song, and it is the first film with an all-black production team nominated for Best Picture.
You can murder a liberator, but you can't murder liberation. You can murder a revolutionary, but you can't murder revolution.
But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips that I am a revolutionary.
King made several noticeable choices when it came to film Hamptons last month in a respectful way. Close-ups were used only for significant moments, like when Fred Hampton is powerfully delivering a speech or in his most vulnerable moments with fiancée Deborah Johnson. According to King, the idea was to put emphasis on his power and compassion, but not overdo it in a way that makes it unnecessarily dramatic. According to cinematographer Sean Bobbitt, the crew even decided to focus on partner Deborah Johnson instead of Hampton himself during his death scene in order to not make it sensational. The assassination sequence was actually edited to last about the same amount of time as the shootout did in real life. The movie was shot in a pretty classic manner with mostly a single camera and the eventual steady cam for walk and talk scenes, without any big camera tricks. Only in moments of conflict the camera was handheld, to emulate the feeling of a news camera documenting the event. So this would be the final effect. When we are watching calm scenes it feels like we're part of it happening, instead of watching a movie. And when the action happens, it is also not supposed to feel like a movie, it's supposed to feel like you're watching the news. In that way, no matter what is happening on screen, the audience is always grounded in the reality of what happened.
Police grabbed me by the hair and they opened my robe. I was 9 months pregnant. They said, "What do you know? We got a broad here."
What do you know? We got a broad here.
Judas and the Black Messiah is a movie about two men with distinct views of what is power. It brings to light a revolutionary that is less known than he should, that fought for the power that came from the people and the power it could be offered back once those people were educated. It also brings to light a man that was educated to understand money as power and that also made the best from what he knew, with the choices and sacrifices that were offered to him. The story is relevant, captivating and well executed and, honestly, if none of that is enough, I'm sure we could all listen to Daniel Kaluuya making a speech about anything the entire day.